Hi all and welcome. I'm Tia Saki and this is the Black Box series. Claudima, Olo, Anders, Nadia, Jay, thank you all for coming. Amongst you guys there's like so much knowledge, so much experience, so we're super grateful to have you all here. So today I'll be picking the questions and inside the questions we've received are from our followers and from the surveys. So the topics that will be included today are about skeleton crews and workshops, production companies, bullying, exploitation of black culture and the freestyle world and more. So as you all know, the Black Box series aims to bring together different aspects of the industry to have an open conversation in the dance community. These questions have come into Dancers Network and the areas of concerns that dancers are not yet confident enough to voice themselves. So hopefully between you guys we can shed some light on these topics and just figure out how to move forward more effectively. So let's pick our first question. So, respect. How do you deal with being disrespected in the work environment and how do you discuss rates or concerns without coming across rude or jeopardising your chances of future employments? So, yeah, I know, big question, yeah. So let's start firstly with dealing with being disrespected in the work environment. Have any of you guys ever experienced being disrespected in the work environment or witnessed somebody else, and then how did you guys kind of deal with that?
I've definitely witnessed a few times, and I've experienced some form of it, but I just because of how I am as a person anyway, I know how to approach situations like that, and I approached it and it got sorted out quite quickly. Yeah. But I've seen in other situations, in auditions and in rehearsals, that people have been disrespected and maybe not felt as comfortable to say anything, and then almost questioned it if they did something wrong.
Right.
And turned it around and made it seem like it was their fault. Just because they're just not that type of person to be able to voice that, and probably not even given the room to be able to communicate with the choreographer or whoever's in front of them to go, oh, what was the actual issue? And sometimes you just take it and that can actually make it worse. Yeah. And they take it quite personally, and then that manifests into other things. Yeah. So yeah, I've seen that happen quite a few times.
I've seen it on both sides as well. I've seen it being a dancer, having it happen to me, but again, thick skin, able to either squash it or deal with it. But I also feel like I've seen it and have it a lot as a creator now.
Right.
Where I feel like I'm disrespected in a place that I'm in control of. Right. And that's like an honest feeling, and often the way that I've been squashing it is by pulling people aside to have the conversations about it, because it's not the kind of conduct you expect, and I don't think people even think that they're disrespecting you sometimes. I think entitlement in certain areas and in certain people's egos and whatnot in different positions is very,
especially now.
It's very different to what it was once upon a time. So I think nowadays, I think you get a lot of respect issues in multiple situations, whereas I feel like back in the day it would often just be the person at the top kind of maybe disrespecting, or their approach was wrong for the people that they had underneath them, whereas now you can be effectively on top, or even on top of being on top, because nowadays I guess dancers look at it, there's dancers, then you've got choreographers, then you've got creative directors, which wasn't always something that was always about when I first started, and now you can get dancers disrespecting the creative directors, and once upon a time that was someone you wouldn't even talk to. You wouldn't even there would be no chat, line of communication between you. You know what I mean? So it's a very different world. I think communication is the best way to deal with it, though. I think people have definitely got to talk and nip it in the bud, whichever way they do. But I totally agree with what you're saying, Claude, because even as a creator, I've been made to feel like I've maybe approached something wrong, and I think I'm very fair. So.
And then do you feel like you, as a creative, that you've seen the younger generation more so have disrespect, or is it just across the board?
Different people, I'd say, I'm not trying to generalize, but I'd say there's a big proportion of younger people who have a different attitude, so their approach is different. So I think because then I don't always know if it's disrespect or if it's misunderstanding. But that's why communicating should happen.
Yeah, I do think when you hit the nail on the head was saying the entitlement. with the younger generation at the moment is this feeling of I must have this, I should, instead of working for something. And that comes across as disrespect because they, again, are entitled to this when actually you don't actually know the history behind it or how you even got to be there. And that is something that's quite apparent at the moment, I feel.
I think, you know, as soon as you tell someone you're a dancer, they're either like, oh wow, that's cool. And then there's sort of maybe a clause in the head of, you probably don't get treated how you should do on a regular basis. And I think, in regards to, you know, the higher ups, like you were saying, you felt disrespected, and directors, and like we all know that musicians get treated really well and they've got a strong union and they leave at 9 o'clock when they need to, whereas dancers, there seems to be this thing of we're linked to youth,
right?
That even, you know,
there's a change with musicians now too.
Yeah, exactly. Even at my age now, like I feel like if I say I work in the arts or dance, immediately there's a judgment like, oh well, you won't mind doing it, well you won't mind it, you don't mind. It's that constant thing. If you work anywhere in dance, whatever you do, you're not as important as a musician or a director or a video, you know. It's, I think it goes across the board, young and old, actually.
Yeah, and that filters down, actually.
Yeah.
The moment you say that you're a dancer or something, that kind of goes, oh, okay, so the level of respect automatically goes down. And as that filters down, the more and more and more, you just feel like, oh, it's alright.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a joke. Oh, you're just dancing around, not really doing much.
I've had, like, you know, casting people call, my dancers have gone into a casting like street kids, and they're like, some of these guys are in their 30s, you know, they're b-boys, they're athletes, they're poppers or whatever, and they're still thought of as street kids. Oh, they won't mind sharing a room, or they. So the respect is just, you're always linked to youth when you're in dance, and you can't ever be seen as this grown adult, this business person, this, that. You're just seen as street dance, commercial dance. Oh, cool. Well, you're in that kind of youth bracket with the kids, and it's, we all know we've got bills to pay. Like we're all adults, you know.
The problem is the job title never changes. It's one of the reasons why I decided to start moving on. Not only did I want to create, but I also realized I started dancing when I was like 17 years old professionally, and realized I was nearly 10 years deep and my job title is exactly the same. Like maybe on your tour or on job I'm on, I was dance captain, you know, for certain things, but that still in its, you know, in its essence, my job title was always dancer. And you know, you work in any other industry for 10 years, you're likely to either move forward, or even with friends that I deal with who work in, you know, normal jobs and whatnot, the title they get, even if it's not even a change in pay, even if, you know, it's like, or if it's a slight adjustment, it's a sideways move, the title is really, really important to just like the status or the position or the experience you've had in that role, or maybe with a certain company, or maybe whatever. So I think it's hard, not just with dance, but to maintain that level of respect, or for people from the outside to understand your position. You know, because it's like, oh, am I a dancer with 5+ years, or a dancer with 10+ years, or a dancer with 50, a dancer over 30? Like, it's like you can't put all those things down. So I think when everyone just has this one job title, it's difficult for us to stamp our status, but then it's difficult for other people to know where you're at in the kind of like the realms, the depths of your career. But disrespect as well, like respecting, like it's good, because everything you were saying as well, leading to directors, actual directors and stuff. I'm sure every dancer here has also felt disrespected, not only, you know, when we're talking about these rehearsed environments, choreographers, dancers, but from the outside, like first ADs. I can't tell you how many shoots have been on where the first AD is a douche, and you know the thing is, they've got a job to do, they've got to drive the day forward, but the way they've communicated with, like, even when I've been on a shoot as a dancer and also as on the outside, and you're like, wow, do they really think it's okay to talk like that to people? Fair enough to move the day forward, like everyone is an idiot. Like, that's not cool.
Yeah, so obviously this is something like as Dancers Network that they're trying to change, and I feel like if you are a dancer and you are on a job and that does happen, what would be the best approach in terms of like, if you feel disrespected, what would you say would be the best approach to handling that?
It's really different. I think it's really different. I can only speak from my own experience. As I got older, I would take it into my own hands, and this is a conversation between two adults. You talk to me like that,
Yeah.
Me and you're gonna have to have a conversation about it between shots, lunch break, whenever, because it's not happening again. And that's maybe my way because I felt confident to do that, but I can't say that a 17, 18-year-old on a shoot is going to feel the same way, or depending on their background, is going to approach it in the right way. But people should be able to call their agent. There should be, like, the terms and conditions for all these things should work both ways to protect the performers as they go into these situations, and that people in these productions know that they are dealing with professionals, whether they be 18 or 32. They're dealing with professionals, and their conduct and communication should be as such, you know what I mean? They shouldn't be able to get away with anything.
I do think that agents probably should have a big part to play in that.
Yeah.
Again, if an 18 or 17-year-old can't communicate with that person, then they should be able to speak to the agent comfortably and say, this is what's happened, can you sort it out? And the agent should be able to have a conversation so it doesn't happen again. But again, just going back to that, what if it happens in an audition, which I've seen happen from time to time, especially with females, where people may think it's not disrespected, but they're not being disrespected. But I've, as a dancer, been in a room where females are being auditioned, and I felt uncomfortable, and I'd be like, I almost want to stand up and say something, and then pull the choreographer aside, and I know it's not my place to do so, but it's been times there's been quite a lot and quite hard to stand there and watch. So I don't know how that could be approached.
I think there's different like layers. There's like fear of missing out. So you get disrespected in an audition. So for someone like me who's been in the industry for a while, I don't have to do that. I'm just not gonna do it, because I'm just not gonna do it. Like I don't have, like I'm still gonna eat tomorrow if I don't decide to do the job. Whereas someone who's 17 or 18, it's that fear of, oh God, like if I say anything, and then that just becomes a cycle, and then we're building a culture of disrespect. Do you know what I mean? And then that entitlement, what you brought up as well with the younger generation, like I want to know where's that come from? Do you know what I mean? Because I don't think it's just the younger generation just all of a sudden deciding to be entitled and they're just gonna uppity. Like that's come from somewhere, and that's either something that the older generation has allowed to happen, or we have made the process of becoming a professional dancer so disposable and so microwave and so easy and so do you know what I mean? So I think it's looking at what's behind that and what's building the culture of disrespect. And do agents care if you tell your agent, oh, I was the first AD or this person disrespected me in the crow? Are they gonna, you've done the job, you've done it, you've done it already, so are they gonna care? Do you know what I mean?
In some situations I think they do, you know, depends on who you deal with.
We always encourage anyone on our books, like if you have, we send everyone an email, let us know how your day went. And we've had several people say, I don't want to complain, but in this casting I felt a certain way. I'll call them, myself personally, and say, just tell me what happened. We'll approach the casting director and say, look, our dancer didn't feel comfortable. We'll get a response, we'll get an apology. Same with the job. We've never had any problems with our people being on a job, but sometimes they feel maybe disrespected, and they'll tell us, and we'll approach the company and go, look, we just want to talk to you about this so you're aware. They'll take it on, they'll apologise. And I know for myself, as with our agency, I feel no qualms in doing that because I'm still a dancer too. So I never want anyone to feel disrespected, or because at the end of the day, we're all, you know, you need so many jigsaw pieces to make the picture, and everyone is important. And so the dancers are normally the missing, you know, we can't find that piece, just whatever. It's that. So I know for us, I can't speak for any other agents, but we always encourage people, if you have a problem, you tell us. It's no skin off our nose to say, look, this happened.
But I think that's really good, and I feel like that would be part of the solution, a dancer feeling comfortable enough and having confidence in their agent to be able to have their back. That would definitely like bridge the gap. But then on the flip side, so talking about respect and like moving on to like rates, what would you advise, like if a dancer, like a new dancer that, like you said, is like 17 or 18, wants to speak out in terms of like their rates, but doesn't feel confident enough to do it to their agent, like what is the route around that?
That's hard because as a person who's going into the professional world, and this is outside of dance as well, you've got to be able to, if you're gonna have that conversation, you've got to be able to try and stand up for yourself in some way, shape or form. You know, it's like that in the dance world is not any dissimilar to like other people in other industries being able to say like this rate isn't the going rate for this position. You know, like who have they got to back them? Is it a recruiter? Is it whatever? Same thing with us. If it's not going to be the agent, you got to know you've got someone to speak to. And I mean, unions coming involved is, you know, it's a good thing and all that kind of stuff. But you have to grow a little bit of a backbone to come and do it. Like it's really unfortunate, but like adulting is adulting in some shape or form, and you might not be the most outgoing person to communicate, but to solve some things, you do have to do some stuff yourself.
Like if you're going to go into the industry at 17 years old, you're going into an industry. And I think that's probably one of the biggest issues right now as well, is that you're getting 17, 16, 15, like 18-year-olds kids going into this industry just going, I just want to dance. And not thinking about, how much do I have to pay? Do I have a bank account set up? Do I have this set up? Do I have national insurance? How do I do my taxes? And all they want to do is dance. And whatever amount of money someone's going to give them, they'll take it because all they want to do is dance. But that's where it's all just breaking. Because all you're getting is random people just going, yes, 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 yes. And it's all fun and games. But the seriousness of the business and understanding of the business is completely lost. So then rates are not being talked about or questioned about, and that's why I'm such a firm believer of finding an agent that works for you and not sticking to one, but finding someone who you can really communicate with and have that rapport and that relationship with. You can go, I don't agree with that, can you sort this out for me? And they're able to do that. And I think that's what we need to install in all the younger generation coming up, is them finding someone who they can trust, that they know and understand that will always have their back, so they can fight those rates. Because I don't like talking about money. When it comes to me being hired, I hate it. So I go, can you speak to my agent? She sorts it all out for me, and that's it, done.
Okay, so next question, bullying. In what ways do you think bullying exists within the dance community and work environment? I feel like I've purposely been singled out repeatedly before because I'm the newest dancer on the job. So I feel like we kind of touched on that in what we spoke about prior. But I think a question, do you think a dancer should be able to cancel their commitment once they've started a job if they feel they're not being treated correctly?
I think it's bullying, yes. In any other workplace, you would be able to, and I think it shouldn't be different in dance.
Yeah, why not?
So what would you deem as bullying? Like being singled out? Would you say that's bullying? Obviously, it depends on the circumstance and how.
Yeah, some choreographers, they like to do, pick one to test.
Yeah.
Like they might test the whole room on the first day, and then they find one, they can break down. That's the one person who gets it the whole week, or whatever, how long the job may be. And so let's say the job is just 3-4 days. Bullying from one choreographer you haven't maybe worked for before, maybe you can survive those 3-4 days and be like, okay, what can I take from this going forward in my next job? Like, how can I handle this? But if it's like, let's say, a 6-month tour or something, you should, figure out, can I handle this as a person, or will this break me? Because that's just how some choreographers like to work. They like to, fork people.
Yeah, I think there's a problem, like it doesn't, it's not like, we're going to take you behind the lockers and take your lunch money. Like it's like mental mind games, like gaslighting, like making someone feel left out, making someone, well, because you don't do this, therefore you are not part of this. Like it's so tiny and so under the radar that if you were to tell someone, like, they might not believe you.
They might just go, it's alright, don't worry about it. I'm sure it's not for you.
You've got to mount your evidence. Like, I had this dealing with this with someone outside of dance who's been going through it, and like what they did in their workplace is they built up evidence, of what was going on. I mean, it's different in dance because there's obviously a lot of the conversations are A to B. They're not like emails and whatnot, but like some way of basically just trying to, be able to show someone what is actually happening to you. Do you have a case for what it is? Because bullying comes in so many different ways and so many subtleties, and it might not just be from a choreographer to a dancer. It might be because life is cliquey, like not just dance, like it's cliquey. You know what I'm saying? Like people have their friends, people have their people. So sometimes being left out, you know, or whatever, like maybe it's because feeling left out is because they're not part of it with the other dancers. They've created their own, they're kind of bullying this other person as well in some way, shape or form. I think there's such a fine line between bullying and what you're maybe putting into a situation and all those kind of things. That's why I think evidence is really key. They've got to be able to if it's real bullying, they should be able to.
Yeah.
100%.
I've experienced it twice actually that I can remember right now. But again, it was, like you just said, Anders, it was 3-4 days, and I was able to go, okay, I understand why this is happening. I kind of knew it was going to happen before I even went into the job.
Why was that though?
Just because I was new,
Okay.
and I've never worked for a choreographer before, and it was more of a test more than anything else. And it happened the first day, and I'm a very hard-headed person. I'm very strong within myself. I'm very thick-skinned, and I always have been. And I didn't think it was going to affect me. And the first day it did, and I went home and I was like, okay, I'm going to go in tomorrow, and I'm going to have to approach this in a completely different light. And I went into the second day, and I almost used it to fuel me, and it helped me. So I just got better, and that got a different reaction from that choreographer, which then I was like, that's something that I would just approach.
It's awful though that you felt after the first day you had to go home and change.
You know what? But there's two sides to all of it, because there's people feeling like they're being bullied because they might not be doing they might not be doing what the person wants them to do as well. So,
but
they might have to.
I think it was more of the test of like, you're new, I'm going to make you for this so you understand.
Like hazing.
Yeah, almost like that.
I don't even understand why that's even like a thing.
And then the second time it kind of happened, it was more little comments and slight digs, and again, I'm the type of person that I am, it didn't really affect me. I noticed it, and then as the weeks went on, other people started noticing it, but I know how it didn't affect me, but I know if it was somebody else, it could have been totally different, and it would have ruined that experience for that person quite badly. So again, I think is people may not think that they're doing it, and they probably think that they're doing it they're probably doing it for a reason. But again, I don't personally think it's right.
I would like to, because I kind of just want to put it into context in my head. So I would like to hear a specific example, because I think there's a very fine line, like what you were saying, with if you feel like you're being bullied and if you're actually being bullied, because that word is quite that's a strong word. So it'll be interesting to hear it doesn't have to be the one that you said, but I would just like to hear I'm not saying like it's right, but just so I can put it into context in my head, just because for me, I'm quite a fiery person, and I'm a little bit of a rebel, so I'm quite reactive. So if I did feel like, I wouldn't necessarily feel like, oh my god, like I'm being bullied, like it would more be like, you're trying to take me for some idiot. Like I'm out, because I don't know what you think this is, you know what I mean? Whereas obviously someone else.
So if you did feel like that, would you walk, like not walk out, like
not walk out,
but would you leave the job if you felt like that? Would you like? Would you be bold enough to say
I wouldn't, because I don't want to
didn't
prove that person wrong.
If I felt bullied, like as what the word is defined in my head, if I felt bullied, I'm 100% out. I don't care who it is. But if I just feel like it's digs, shade, all of that stuff, like I would address it. Maybe not necessarily there and then, like if I might speak to my agent, because I don't really like doing the whole confrontation thing on a job. Like I feel like there still needs to be a level of professionalism, even though it's not coming from the other side. But if it's to the extent of bullying, I would 100%. I feel like everyone should have that option to be able to leave. But just context-wise, it would just be interesting to hear like a specific example, because I know what bullying looks like because I work in the corporate world. So if that happens, you know that you can speak to your line manager or your HR, and of course you would be allowed to, do you know what I mean, take a leave of absence or whatever, and that's such a smooth process. There's no questions, there's no, like if you feel that way, that's what it is. Whereas in the dance industry, it's slightly different because
Yeah.
there's like a fine line.
Because
I'm
this is-
just
yeah,
joking.
It's also
Dance industry HR.
it's a skills industry, which is the
Yeah.
hardest thing as well. So it's like you can have someone who's like not really doing something that's your flavor, and it's like, you know, it's just like, I don't know. You do. Is it bullying when you're like trying to get someone to where you need them to be? You know, I think there's that fine line as well, because I've been in situations where I felt like, well, I'm being singled out, like in rehearsals.
Is singling out bullying though? Do you think
No, that's what I mean. That's
No,
what I mean.
because
Some people
you-
feel that
yeah.
singled out, and they feel like, but then people's communication makes you feel like you're being bullied, just because in our industry, like people don't, you know, there's no like communication etiquette really. Like the people come into these roles with, no one teaches you how
Yeah.
you either know how to speak to people properly or you don't. So and different people then speak
yeah.
in different ways. So then sometimes you're not maybe doing something that someone needs you to do, but the way they're communicating to you makes you feel bullied. So sometimes it's just in the communication as well.
Because just early this year, I was actually on the other side, where I felt like I was helping somebody and I was rehearsing somebody, and they just wasn't doing it right, and I just kept making sure that I was like, that's the wrong step, do it like this, that's the wrong step. And it got to the end of the week, and I was like, something's not right. So I pulled that person aside, and I was like, what's wrong? And they were like, I feel like this, and I was like, whoa, I had no idea this is how
I've
I
had the same
feel. So then I was
thing as
like,
well.
okay, well this isn't the case. I apologize. This is how I made you feel, but I actually thought I was helping.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, I felt like I was being picked on, and I felt like I was almost being bullied. And I was like, that's not at all at it. But I think I had to step back and see it and go, okay, something's not right, to be able to address it. But again, it's just a hard
Dealing with different people,
Yeah.
different people dealing with you, but
Yeah.
you got to the bottom of the communication. I had the same thing. Someone that I genuinely had the most amount of love for, that I gave a lot of experiences to, and I got them into a really big process on something, and I was, you know, there trying to communicate with them quite a lot about like how other people maybe felt, how maybe their conduct should be going forward, what they should maybe be aware of. And they thought, like I found out years later, that they thought that like I was basically telling them, oh, if they don't do things a certain way, certain things are gonna happen. And I was just trying to like educate them to be aware of what's going on in their surroundings, because this might get read as that, and that could maybe be the outcome to this, and you know, this person does this job, so like, you know, not job in the dance industry, but just their position on that job, like, you know, just trying to educate and help and provide that information. What you realize is that, especially when you're dealing with generational gaps between people, the way people take things on from communication that you would deem as regular, because it might have been how someone dealt with you, is taken and felt in a completely different way. And then when speaking to them, I got a little bit upset by the fact that like what they were telling me is basically that it felt like what they were saying to me is like, felt like they were being bullied by me doing what I felt like I was doing out of love, like not even in a harsh way, just like talking, you know, like not even like on the job grilling or drilling someone, just like literally just like talking in the out moments because of what other people are then saying to me, so that I can try and help them. And I just felt like, wow, like this is.
I think that's communication, isn't it?
It
like,
is.
I think there's, obviously I'm not going to name any names, but there's a like world-renowned American choreographer who has, there are a lot of people who have worked with this person who are in counselling.
Really?
And and they're known for being a bully. They're just known for that.
Name sis. What's the tea?
I think we all know this one.
I've run out of tea, I need some more.
They've been around for a long time. I've never worked with them. I know someone who has. The stories, I was like, that's bullying. That's blatant bullying. Obviously, what you're saying.
I know
is,
exactly who you're talking about, and I mean, I've
well,
witnessed it.
we all
and
might know someone different, you know.
I really don't think we're talking about someone different.
But you know, I mean, I think we all know when we are made to feel uncomfortable. We all know that, and situations like what you guys have been in, you've spoken to those people to go, oh, I'm not being away, and that's what it all boils down to. But I think we all know, like, I think we all have a bit of a filter on, but like you said, after a few days, people went, yeah, they are being a bit harsh on you. That's when you go, what I'm feeling is valid. Like, I need to say something. And there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to talk to your agent and go, look, I'm feeling a certain way, and they go, look, would you like us to talk to them, or do you want to approach them? Tell me what you want to do, we'll do it. It doesn't have to be this big thing.
Yeah. Just to jump in there, how does everyone feel? Because I've witnessed this quite a few times from the day I kind of joined the industry. Dancers bullying other dancers. That I've, again, witnessing it, I never really knew how to approach it, especially coming in as a new dancer. It was quite clear when it was happening from the older generation of dancers doing it to the new generation of dancers.
I think that's a part of also insecurity
Oh yeah,
coming
100%.
from the generation. If you in any part of life have to bully somebody else, you're insecure about yourself. I don't care what your job is, but if as a dancer, I think you're just insecure about these new people coming in, and they're gonna get better than you and take your fucking job next year. You know?
But dude, like, how do you approach it? Because I never knew how to really approach it.
There's loads
Fist
of
fight.
things. But you know what? There's loads of things like, because it's not. I've witnessed the same thing like you're saying, but it's not just new to old. It is black dancers to white dancers.
Yes.
It is, you know, like people who are good at a certain style to people who aren't good at a certain style. It's, you know, like I've seen a multitude of different ways. The only reason why I didn't mention white to black is because I haven't seen it the other way around before, but I have actually seen it happen with like clips that I'm in, like doing it, like singling out a person because of like certain stuff, and you know, it's like I don't know. I just it's hard to deal with. Like it's difficult because it's like, how does anyone deal with a bully?
Yeah.
You know,
It's almost like that's when it starts to feel like high school,
yeah.
like sorority kind of, or you know, the football lads and the sorority girl. I went. This was a long time ago, but when I started doing commercial dance classes, because my background's mainly street dance, like in a crew, I felt, I'm not going to say I felt bullied because that's too much, but I did feel uncomfortable in a certain commercial class because everyone was from that company.
Right,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, like this feels uncomfortable. And it felt very, hey, kind of Mean Girls, like.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
I've never witnessed anyone being bullied, but I've heard about it, and social media is great for all things, but for some things, I think, you know, even things where we've seen people post a video and people are, then someone will repost it and go, this is awful, this is terrible, what is this, da 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 da. I've seen that with a pioneer of a style doing that, an older man doing that to a younger man. So I don't. You know, we can all say we'll have that person's back, but how do we have that person? Do
Yeah.
we say, oh, don't do that, or leave them alone, or it's almost like, how are they bullying that person? Are they bullying that person because they don't think they're very good, or is it for their personality? Because art's subjective, dance is subjective, so you can say, I think that person's not a good dancer, and we have to not take it personally.
Yeah, it's a matter of opinion.
Yeah, as much as it's like, oh, you know, damn. But if it's something so personal and you know, you don't need to tell someone you're not good to their face. You don't need to do that. You don't need to you can just think it. We're allowed to think what we want, but I don't know. It's just, I don't know what it is.
It's a weird place undefined. It seems like definitely having a thick skin is like vital, and then in terms of like feeling like understanding with choreographers, if you, like you said, if you feel like you're being bullied or if you are being bullied, and then taking it from there, just kind of taking a step back and understanding the situation. Okay, so moving forward, next question we have, skeleton crew. What is a skeleton crew? When is it needed? And should I be getting paid? So, Jay, you have a production company. Could you explain to us what a skeleton crew is?
I mean, skeleton crews are nothing to do with production companies and all. It's something new to me. I heard about it in the States. I remember being over there and someone asked me to be part of a skeleton crew. I was like, what the hell is that? They were like, oh, it's just what we're going to work out, like what we're going to do for this bigger performance, but like people are just going to be a part of it kind of thing. And that was maybe like 6 years ago. And I was like, oh wow, that's like something that people didn't really do here. But then, so it's basically getting a team of people to like create an environment where you can maybe experiment and create things for a performance. I think for me it always works best if it's something where you've got lots and lots of people, because that's something that you can't always think about just off the top of your head. Like you go into a room with 60 dancers, like, well, I know how I'm gonna how make all these 60 people move when I've been in my house by myself doing it, creating this. So it's just to be able to have stuff to play with, and it's just creating like a rehearsal or a setting or a kind of like a experimental day where you get to play with things with a team of people who emulate what you're going to be doing when you do it.
And just to add to that, in the States, they because you have a massive influx of dancers from like all over the world, it ends up being a way that new dancers get seen by choreographers, get seen by creative directors and stuff like that. So in the States, what I've heard and experienced is that they tend to do that a lot. And I'm not 100% sure if they do get paid or if they don't get paid. But
do you think that they should be getting paid?
Yes, to an extent. I think depending on time, depending on the amount of work they're actually being required to do. I think if as I remember when I was a student, if a choreographer or someone asked me to do something like that and it was beneficial to my career, I think it wouldn't necessarily be about the money for me. It would have been about the experience and what I gained from it. But I think it is different when you're a professional dancer. I think again it comes down to time and investment and what you're actually being asked to do. I think that's what's really important.
Effectively, it's like a personal choice as well, because it's like, what defines you as being a professional dancer? You've done one job, you're a professional dancer. You've done 10 jobs, you're a professional dancer. I guess everyone's trying to go on their journey, so they've got to make choices. I think there's a difference because, I know a lot of people are making, concept videos. These concept videos are then ammunition for people to go out there and get real work. And these dancers are going in there and doing big long days on shoots and stuff like that. That's far more extensive than any skeleton crew I've had. And I've had skeleton crews where I've had dancers paid because the budget's allowed for it, and I've wanted a certain caliber of dancer, and I've wanted to demand a certain amount of time from them. And I've had skeleton crews where there isn't money for it, but I am using it as an opportunity to see people. And I think it's depending on the people who are coming in, depending on the creator as well. I use new people. So like if you come to a skeleton crew for me and it's unpaid and you're amazing, the likelihood of it is you're going to be on the next job with me because I'm like that. That's me.
I think there's because me and Olu from companies and crews, like that kind of happens as part of
anyway.
I get I'm not saying people have to do that, but I know being in Boy Blue, like you go to rehearsals and then you might work on something that is structured and in a different way, or for theatre or for screen or for whatever, and it's kind of part of your training. So whether you get used for it or not, you almost don't think about it because it's just part of being in the company and the crew, and then the next one, I am part of it now. And skeleton crews are kind of a new thing for me to hear about.
It's a terminology, but it's almost the same because we were all from like crew background back in the day, and it was like stuff that you just did back then, and it's like you look at some people's stuff that they have now. Like there's some choreographers who are working as professional choreographers, but also have big crews out there internationally right now. Like I was even watching a music video for Blackpink. And saw the choreographer of that video thanking the crew who were basically a skeleton crew from the place that he came from, and it's like dope because he's got access to those people who they trust him, he trusts them. He's able to create these moments with them, and maybe they weren't on the job and maybe they weren't paid for that job, but then maybe the next one they're using that crew. It's really, really difficult, but it's all about the people's choice and the people's network as well. If I had a crew and I asked the crew, like, I've got 10 people for a job, so 10 people from the crew, I just need to work out this thing, but I know hiring from that crew, I know that only one person from that crew could really be on the job because of whatever,
because dance
style, whatever.
When I've done skeleton crews, I've been quite lucky enough that I teach at Erdem, so automatically the classes that I teach, then I use that as my skeleton crew. I'll go into the class and go, guys, we're going to work on this today. I teach about 4 or 5 classes a day, and each class I'll do a section of the piece I'm trying to create. And I'll set it and I'll position it and stuff, and that's part of their lesson, that's something that they're learning, and I make it educational and based off their training. But I think again it comes down to, I think, is the being a professional dancer and finding that right line of am I being taken advantage of, or am I actually being asked to evolve?
So then is that not a good way then, you know, how we have students being exploited doing free work, for them to experience working with a professional? Like, is this not a, I mean, I don't know how, like, the term skeleton crew new it is, but is this not a way for us to help students do professional choreography with you guys?
Instead of going to do a free job.
To do, you know, X Factor for free or whatever. Like, is this not a better way for
I think it is, but I think it's about access, you know, like I know for myself, not teaching at college, I would love to use skeleton crews more, because the way my brain works, I definitely are more thinking about the overall vision, how I can use the 20 instead of using the 10. I've become quite good at being able to see what I'm going to do with 20 people before I have them. But then I think about how much play I could have if I actually had 20 people to play with for a day, you know, and like what that did. But it's about access. Like, I know now, like, that I can use the position that I'm in to reach out to people. But I'm also someone who doesn't like to take the piss, if I'm honest. So it's like, I'll do stuff like buy food for everyone, or like sort people out with whatever, or be true to my promise that, like, you know, if this goes really well, that people from this will be on a job. Like, but that's me. But I wish I had access to, like, I think it's a great thing for students, I wish. But then I also know the other side of the fence is that the creators want people who can do their shit well, so they can see it right, you know what I'm saying? So as much as they're educated, it's all about the different creators, because I know I had to help a skeleton crew come together for someone, and I knew I had to bring hitters into the room, because I knew that they wouldn't, like, they weren't trying to educate people, they were just trying to get to the end. Do you know what I'm saying?
So then do you think in that instance it should be pushed that it's included in the choreographer's fee for a skeleton crew? Do you think that's something
I think people should try and budget for it where it's available, 100%. Especially if they're going to use proper, like, if they're going to R&D, use professionals. Like, I R&D'd a show. I was able to pay every single, when we were doing the thing for the ship. Did you come in on any days, Anders?
No.
Oh, but Anders didn't come in. But we had budget for people per day to be a part of something for 10 days of like R&D, and like 18 people per day at a rate. And I know people who do it for commercials and stuff like that. Certain things allow for it. Artist projects are the one where they're looking like, you want an R&D? No.
I just want to understand it a bit better, because I've been squinting a lot. Because it's really new to me. So first question is, and I want to learn about, because I don't want to be judgmental about it. Like, I would like to understand it. So is the skeleton crew, is that potentially building a culture of what we're trying to step away from? And in what situation or scenario, maybe you guys can, because you've done it before, would you need a skeleton crew if the dancers for a job have been booked already? So I just want to understand, like, in what kind of scenarios would you need? Would it be before?
It's prior.
Yes, it's before.
So you always figure it out, so then the rehearsal process becomes easier. So you can go into a room and go, this is exactly, I know in my head what it is when I have all 30 people in the room. And with the professionals as well, it just becomes easy for them, instead of a choreographer standing there trying to figure it out, when they can just go, this is what it is, stand there, stand there, stand there, because you already done all the back work.
And who requires that? Is that the choreographers like, is that your proactiveness?
It's the creator's proactiveness. Right. Some jobs though, I've like worked on something like even recently with Samsung, where they wanted to see what it was going to be prior to the time. So, but we let them know there was a cost implication of that.
So they included that in the budget?
We got money to create it before it happened. Do you know what I mean? But that's working with like a big client, them understanding they want to see something before it happened. But if you're trying to do it as yourself as a creator, and you want to try and you know you've then got 3 days to do something that you know should really take a week, and you know you're never going to get that. You know, I guess you're trying to be resourceful to try and build something for your, you know, for yourself.
Because I think on one hand, I think like it's really proactive as a creator to say, okay, before I walk into this situation and look like a damn fool, like
just to make the shape. Sometimes just to make the shapes.
Yeah,
you know,
like, I need to know what the hell I'm doing. Yeah. I'm just wondering if like, because it's like, it seems like it's like a thing now. So if you, I don't know, if you're giving a client like a package, is it not something that can be, oh, let's see, well, this job is part of the budget and this one it's not, and this one is, isn't it? Should it be something that's just there as a standard, or do you base it on individual?
I think when you're working across a lot of projects and you're seeing the industry with a kind of like a bigger lens, you realize there are certain places it's going to happen and certain places it's not, and there's certain times where you know that you shouldn't ask for it, you know yourself, and certain times when you know that it's worthwhile asking for it. I think it's definitely
it's tricky, because on one hand I could say skeleton, fuck that shit, but on another hand, when I deep it and I look at it, like I've probably done it loads of times. But
me too.
I think it's because the label now is being put on it. I do know Skeleton Crew, but meanwhile, for years, like I've done concept videos for people and I've been rehearsing for a month. I've done Dances the Lie and I've been rehearsing for 3 months.
And not being funny, and then maybe you've seen that stuff that they've created for that. That's become the stencil for something else. Even if it's not the actual choreography as such, but it's the shapes that they've made with those people. That was all a skeleton process. Like how many times that I've gone back to think about setting big numbers that I've set for like when I was in college and stuff like that, or whatever. Like when I was first starting to choreograph, they were some of the first places I was drawing from. And effectively those people were my skeleton crew, albeit 6 years before I was even doing what I was doing. Because I was then, bang, I know I can make this shape with 20 people, and that was cool, and I fucking did that. And like, I'm gonna bring that back. And I think the label like anything starts to change what something is. I think I also think who's asking you makes it become certain things, and there's an expectation and this, that, and the other. Like, I just want to be able to like create sessions and play and this, that, and the other, and it can lead to something. But some people are. It's hard. Man. I want everyone to get something.
Yeah, because you're a good person. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I believe you when you say, if I do a Skeleton Crew and in that moment I might not be able to offer you something financially. However, trust and believe, if opportunities come and I feel like you're right for it. Like I believe you when you say because you're a genuine person. But that might not have to happen. That's not
everyone else. And that's why the individual has to protect themselves. This person asked me for Skeleton Crew 6 times over. I never got anything from it. No job, no whatever. They're taking the piss. I'm not doing it anymore. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's your initiative.
I do think also if a client is asking to see a Skeleton Crew, then you go, okay, then I mean, if this is what you want, you're gonna have to pay for it, and then this is probably when it kind of happens. But again, just going back to earlier and teaching them and using them on the Skeleton Crew, there's been 2 occasions where the client's actually seen the Skeleton Crew and go, actually, can we hire that person, and that person? And that changes everything. And they're students, but you know what? Now, just because of that one thing, you're in. You've now become part of this industry, so it changes everything.
And that's making smart decisions for your personal.
And I think
it's going to go in front of, man.
And choreographers have to make that choice as well. You have to be able to live by it.
I think in regards to the Skeleton Crew like format, I think we do need to be careful in the sense of if it's taken any way from the dancers' rehearsal time, and could they be getting paid for that? So if the client wants these dancers and wants a research and development or a Skeleton Crew to happen, they need to be prepared to pay for that. I do understand in the sense though, if students want to spend 2 hours or so with a choreographer to help them or whatever, that's great and it's educational. It's better than them doing a music video for free or a feature film for free. Like maybe these are the cool ways of stepping into the industry, but I do think there needs to be, I guess we have to figure out the line of what are the dancers losing out on money because production just don't want to pay to create something.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so moving on to the next question. Production companies. do production companies value and understand the role of a dancer? So yeah, Jay, as I mentioned before, you have a production company now that's dance video. So do you think that dancers are at the bottom of the food chain? I feel like we touched on it already, but
depends on the project and the necessity for them. I think our production company is really different in some ways because I obviously came from dance, so I have a real, like, I really interject with like things that I think are correct and not correct, even if it's to our own detriment. So before Dancers Network were putting money up and things like that for people, we respected that might be something that would happen, so informed our clients as the year went into the next year that we're in line with inflation and increases, dancers' rates are going up. And just in regards to it, with it unionizing, we didn't even know where everyone was going to get with everything, but I told my business partners that was going to happen, and like, you know, they both came from the freelance world as well originally, so they both understood that, because they're like, yeah, every year when I was a prop maker or, you know, a props director or this, every year I put my fee up by like £8.50 or something like that, even if it was small, just in line with it should be going up. They were like, so yeah, I completely get it should happen. So from our perspective, it's something that's really, really good. And also from our perspective, because obviously I choreograph most of the jobs that we do, dancers aren't at the bottom of the food chain because they're an invaluable tool to some of these processes, and some of the jobs that we do would never feel the same without them. But then on the other side of the fence, sometimes dancers either aren't needed or it isn't the part of the bigger picture. They're like a smaller moving part, and that's not to mean they're any less important. It just means in that process it's not the focal point, you know. But I think from our perspective, we always respect.
Yeah.
I think like the one thing that I would say to production is when they're writing treatments for music videos or films or adverts, think about budget, because sometimes we'll get a brief and it's like, we want 20 dancers and this is the fee, and it's this incredible fantasy kind of thing, and I'm like, well, that's only budget for 5 dancers. And I think that could be a good communication with production, going, look, if you're going to write a treatment, make sure it is in line with our budget. Like, you know, I'm sure, you know, with Game of Thrones, it doesn't matter if they have dragons and fire and all that, because they're like, yeah, we've got the budget for it. But for tours and films and videos, like, they really need to take it upon themselves to go, right, we've only got this budget, so let's have just 2 really strong dancers we know how much they should get paid, let's do it like that. I think production have a lot to
They're very optimistic.
Yeah,
so we want 150 dancers, but we can only pay for 5.
But bro, it's about experience. You've got to remember, all these companies, yeah, you've got like a big company that might have been around for 20 years, but all these people that work for these companies, you've got individuals who are there, who've been in a job for like 3 months, 6 months, no industry experience, nothing, and then you're dealing with that person's the person trying to pull this together. They have no background in what it is. But you know, with a lot of production companies, they start to learn that like that's not how it goes. So we know, for not even for us, because we are a production, but we work in the live realm, so we deal with realistic things. We know when a client says to us, oh, we're thinking about 20 dancers on this job, we're like, well, 20 dancers for 4 days at like 180 a day for rehearsals plus 350 for show, or 300 for show, or whatever it is. This is how much it costs, and can you afford that? So we're laying that out to a client. But if you repeat work with a client, like, it's good. It's like anyone, they learn from this.
They do, but they're not learning quick enough, really.
No, I think some of the production companies,
I think
in the shoot world it's completely different. Like I said, we work in live, so we're creating budgets and treatments for people that are in line with like realistic things that are happening. But I think it's about education. I don't know how we get to all of these other production companies or creative houses or brands and let them know this is the rate card for performers. I think just by saying no. Oh yeah, by saying no, of course,
I think if everyone, it's so easy, like this education thing is actually like, just no.
I mean, you would say no, like, I mean, a budget coming in for less.
Some people wouldn't.
I mean, they're crazy, because how are you going to turn around to dancers and be like, well, like, oh, because they want 20 of you, you all have to be like on this fee divided by 20.
Oh, but people do take it, and it happens on a daily basis.
Because once you start doing, I guess what I'm doing, you work in so much isolation, like, I don't really, you're working on the projects you're working on, and you know what the clients, what they understand, what you're showing to people. But for me, that's to me it just sounds bananas. It's like, why would that even happen?
That's the reality of what's happening. Like the videos we get through, there's so much we turn down because the day rate is not. It's just we live in London, like
it's like you're just mugging it off.
And it's just tiring every time to have to keep. But the reason why it has to be this budget is because, and then you start doing mathematics. Sure. People, and it's just like I don't want to have to keep doing that for every single. No.
But that's why you got. That's what you got to throw it out.
And not only that,
frustrating.
to be quite honest, it's not my problem. The reason it's not my issue. All I'm trying to do is do my job. So if you hire me to do a job, pay me for this. If you're not going to pay me, okay, fine. But you have so many people that are just like, okay, we'll take it. We're gonna get these dancers that just want to work, and we're gonna get these 20 dancers to do it for this amount of money.
I mean,
and now it defeats the point.
But that's what I'm saying about people learning stuff is because, like, and it goes back to back in the day kind of situation. I was working with an artist on a music video. They were like, yo, we want to get like dancers for this video. I told them how much dancers cost. They were like, oh wow, like that's crazy. We didn't realize dancers cost that because we shot this other video for one of our other artists, and they had this crew of Afrobeats dancers who did the whole video, 2 days of rehearsal plus the shoot for £150 or something like that. And then the choreographer was in it as well, and they did it for like £50 more than the dancers and stuff like that. I was like, oh, well, I mean, I was like, that's crazy, but like, this is what it is. And I was like, I'm not putting my name to asking people for that kind of rate. And they were like, no, I'm not even trying to ask you to do that. But I'm saying that's good for me to know. They were saying that it's good for them to know that's really what it is, because this is the only time they've ever worked with dancers before that, and that was their only experience. So to know that this is what is the industry standard, I explained to them that crew probably made their own choice.
I literally had an experience last year, which was I got a call. We need, and again it was Afrobeat dancers.
Hey, they're just spoiling my name. Oh my
God. Literally, it was.
They're not spoiling the name of the star.
I know, but I was like, you can't really, like, they were like, we need 5 of them. I was like, okay, cool. This is how much will be for each dancer. They're like, okay, great, fantastic. We'll get back to you. Half an hour later, I got called. They were like, it's okay, don't worry about it. We got dancers for free.
Bruh. I mean, but
and I was like.
It's always the dance stars that have a scene. Like, think about it. For us back in the day, they generalized hip hop. Like, there was a whole lot of like things within that. But back in the day, they used to just be like, we just want a street dance crew or whatever. Like, they didn't even know what they're getting. They just want it.
The commercial world and the underground world, you know, we're different, but we are working within the same realms. And it is mainly the underground dancers that do suffer because they're seen as, again, street kids. It's that
like
that
you're
whole
a crew,
like,
you just do it for fun.
You won't mind, you'll do it for fun. It's like we're in our 30s, mate. Like, we got bills to pay. And I think people are forgetting with, especially screen stuff, film and TV, with this whole fee thing. It's not just the time that you're there. You are on YouTube forever.
It's a skill that we have as well.
Right, it's the skill, it's the time that you're there, but your image is used forever. Your skill is used forever because it is online. And anyone can access that. Like, before, you know, when we did videos back in the day, I mean, they're not in HD now.
They're still there. There's some stuff that I look back and I'm like, yo, like, this is still in the world, man.
Yeah.
But if I've got repeat fees for something.
So, like I said, you don't get repeat fees for music videos, so the rate has to be high on that because you are advertising that track and that artist forever. Like, you know.
So then would we ultimately say that getting these production companies to understand the value of a dancer is about agents pushing back and saying no, or just
but it's also about understanding the different realms of what the production company is, because for instance, we're a production company, we produce shows, we produce live events, but we come from a creative angle and we create those things. Some of the production companies Nadia's talking about are production companies who make things for screen and make things for film. And you do have other production companies who are like us, but the team that they have in there have different backgrounds to what we have. So for them, dancers are probably lower end of their pecking order because it's something they don't understand. Whereas if they are a production company with a lighting director as their kind of like their leader, effectively, the director or whatever of the company, they're going to be thinking about things from a technical aspect and and dancers are just a
addition.
thing that's a moving part within that. Do you know what I mean?
I think you're right in saying is production companies need to understand the value of
Oh,
the
yeah.
dancer. That's
Exactly.
the key word, value. Is we right at the bottom at the moment, and that's what's not being understood as much. Like Nigel just said, that image, whatever that product ends up being, is there forever. It's not going anywhere. You're a part of something. I just actually sit here and realize I did a music video in 2013, and that music video still gets played on TV, and I got paid £250 for it. And that music video gets repeated over and over and over again. It's been how many years, and I still sit there going, oh my God.
It's what you know you sign it for.
They're like,
I'm in music videos from 2003. Yeah, bro, like, so, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's still like that. So, you know, and I still see that pop up in the gym and stuff. And I'm again when I'm like in Glasgow on the treadmill, I'm like,
that's me.
back then. Right, I had braids back then.
Like,
stuff.
but then
Yeah,
those
crazy.
videos are still. There's still an income from those videos. There's a rotation. It's going to be that for the next 20 to 30 years.
But that's
and
you know,
we
it's hard. It's
we
what we
will
signed
never
away.
reap those benefits.
Yeah.
So the
Even
value of
just-
it.
But it's what we signed away, because effectively what we signed away is we signed, and that's where we have to be business people. We can complain about it, but the fact of the matter is, we signed a buyout for what it was, for it to exist. And when you read those things as well, like even the one we've probably release form we've got from today or from anything, it's you accepting that something is going to live. And it says that I remember when I was young, I'd be like, this sounds big, boy. This can exist in the universe for as long as, like, basically forever. Basically what it's saying is it can be anywhere it wants to be for as long as it wants to be, and this is what you're getting for it. And that's what some of those release forms were saying to you.
It's the World Wide Web, and that's the problem. That's a grey area at the moment with royalties and payback and stuff like TV and film. You get your buyouts, but with World Wide Web, www. We don't have that yet, and that needs to change. You'll see now all over the world, like.
And it's different, because once upon a time you do a music video or something like that, and a production company, what they were asking you to do was, I mean, it was relatively reasonable, because the life cycle of that video would be X, Y, and Z, and once it's done, it probably wasn't really coming on TV sporadically anymore in that kind of way. But now the way people are accessing stuff, if we're talking about production companies in a filming realm, especially for music videos, being aware of where this footage is going to be. People are using these things in so much different ways. Gym culture has changed everything as well. How many music videos that you were in that never really saw the light of day on TV are now featured in gyms all the time and stuff like that. And like that's changed everything, as well as like things like the internet. And someone's getting paid for that to go somewhere. So it's about people being aware of maybe putting things in place that if something does grow or exceed an expectation, that there's money or you compensate. Like as a model, I remember like I did a shoot for Superdry that was meant to just be for an advert in one of those big exhibition, like fashion exhibition plate like things, just for the magazine for that event. And it ended up being a campaign that ran for 3 years and then ran internationally. But the conversation got opened up, and I ended up getting a buyout for 3 years and internationally and whatever. And do you know what I mean? So it's like it's how maybe I don't know, production companies or agents or whatever start to align like the communication of what they're saying to put out there that if this video does get more than 1 billion views, and it goes completely viral like that, we need to reassess the terms and conditions of what these people were getting paid. That you basically make things more flexible. But then again, it's also on the agents and stuff like that to research for stuff to happen, because it's art in general. Art like I know like artists in many different forms who basically have to stay on the internet looking for when people are basically using their stuff, and it's like, they've got to, like, someone's got to stay on it. If it wasn't for someone calling me and being like, yo, Jay, I just saw your picture in Sydney, I was like, huh?
So
you know what I'm saying?
Actually.
And then, like,
I got £800 for an advert for Ford, the car. Yeah, £800, and it went everywhere. My cousin called me from New York saying, "You're on the billboard." I was like, "What?" I was like, "What?" She was like, "You're on the billboard in New York right now," and I was like, hold on, while she took pictures and videos, sent it to me, I was like, wow, I got £800, no buyout, nothing.
Yeah.
It was like, it ran for a year.
I think as a production company, that's what we would do. Like if we were working in that realm, and even when people do live film on shoots on jobs that we're doing now, like even like when we did Thompson Anders, do you know what I mean? When we found out they were filming for that, you know, we made sure, like we spoke to Jerry and we were like, you know, there's got to be a new thing put in place. But I think to protect, you can always work with eventualities if you put something in writing before it happens to be like, if this does end up going X, Y, and Z places, we all need to be aware that we can reopen this conversation.
You don't have to do that. Like if someone's used just for a poster campaign or just even online social media, they definitely cannot put it on TV or cannot put it in their stores.
They have to tell you where the usage is.
They have to tell you. Yeah. So it's actually, you know, I know as an agent, we've had someone do Adidas. It was just an online thing, and now it's branched out, and we've gone, okay, cool. Well, there are extras you need to pay for that, and they were like, yeah, cool. So I think that can't be gotten away with. I don't know how that's terrible.
And I reached out to the agent. I reached out to the agent. They were like, "There's nothing we can do about it."
Why though?
We answered the question and went
luckily,
so far beyond this question.
That was like 2012, 2011.
But that agent's achieved for that. Like,
I mean, I automatically removed myself from those books, and I was like, thank you very much.
Not being funny, like because that's just them not wanting to put their nose out of place to do it. Like I feel very fortunate, like because we were talking about respect and people and all that protection back in the day with one of these questions that we had, and having relationships with agents and stuff. And I feel really fortunate that when I was younger, when I was like a teenager, that I had Aisha McKenzie in my corner. Like it might have been different for lots of other people, their relationship, but with me, I was doing good for her and bringing stuff in, and she was fighting my corner like you wouldn't believe. And that then through AMCK model, I wasn't even a model, I wasn't even on a modeling book, I'm not a model, but because of that, she then took it upon herself to make sure that things got made right. So yeah, it's like you not having that, like that, knowing that person didn't look after you like that.
And I was young, that was what, a year, maybe 2 after me leaving Erdem?
Sorry to bring it back to the question. I think it just to be clear for the people who are watching and stuff, I think there needs to be a clear, just so they have something to take away, who is accountable for production companies knowing and understanding the value. What happens, what kind of dancer do, like if someone was watching this now, what can they do now actively to make sure that they are going in the right direction? And if they find that what happened to you happened to them, who are they talking? Is it the agent? Does the agent know the routes to take?
No, I don't think. I think you can go through even before that. You know, we were talking about that rate card thing. People might say it's wrong, but for me personally, what I think should really be happening, and I've spoken to Dancers Network about it as well, is there to be some research into all the production companies across different lines of different things. So I'm talking to people who create commercials, create music videos, create film, the people who do live events like us and work more in the live and touring realm and this, that and the other. And because these people they have staff that turn over faster than dancers turn over. You know, we'll be in the industry for 10 years, being a dancer. They'll have someone who's running this as a production assistant, coordinator, budget person, whatever, account manager, who might be there for 6 months, 3 months, this, that and the other, to make sure that they've always got the education there. The agents, the Dancers Network, whoever, should be updating, researching and making a database of all these people and updating them on what it is, so that if the call comes in that we need to look at this, like without even hesitating, the same way if they were like, oh, we've got to get a palm tree for this music video, they can go and look somewhere and know what a palm tree costs. And then because they've done that or whatever, they've got like, you know, that props company is then, they've got their registry effectively with them, so they can see immediately what stuff costs. I think we need to be, as a community, Dancers Network or the agents or whoever needs to be putting that out there across the board, some sort of thing that they can have in their offices, so that no matter the overturn of staff or whatever, that production company knows what it is to hire a performer in any realm. Like we talk about dance, but I think this is relevant for all specialties, all specialist skill acts and performers, and they should know. And I don't know, for some individual skills it's a very individual thing. Different fire breather might charge different to another fire breather. But I think anything, if they want to get anything regulated, it's about people having the information.
Okay, so on to our last question, exploitation. Do you think black culture is being exploited in our industry? I'm a freestyler and sometimes feel more vulnerable to exploitation. I'll just put that one out there. Feel free to. Olu,
Yeah.
I feel like you're ready on this one.
Yeah, go on, Ollie.
Well, it's a pretty simple answer, isn't it? Yes. I think for me, it's. I don't know if it's ego. I don't know if it's power trips. I don't know if people are scared. In terms of freestylers, you guys will probably have more of an input with this. But in terms of like culturally, it's just really interesting watching stuff. For instance, if I was hired to choreograph a show that required flamenco, for instance, that's not my steez, my G. So I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not an idiot. Like, I'm not doing it. Like, it would either have to be I'm gonna bring on an assistant, or I'm just gonna pass it on to. So Claude has done that with me a few times and passed on stuff that isn't necessarily in his remit. But I've seen certain situations where they've held castings specifically for Afro jobs. The choreographer is nowhere near. It's like that far. But then hiring dancers who are proficient in that style, so that they can essentially choreograph it for you, but then you're going to put your name on top of it. And I just don't think that's right. I don't think there's anything wrong in, if you are not from that culture but you're proficient in it, then that's fine. There's nothing wrong. But if you're not, like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Freestylers, I don't know if it's lack of knowledge because it's more the underground scene. I don't know if it's lack of knowledge, or if I don't know, agents or whatever feel like they can take advantage of that. But I definitely think freestylers are for sure more vulnerable, because when you think of freestylers, it's the underground, it's for the love, it's in the streets, in the studio, it's wherever anything goes. It's passion, and people are you're starting to see an influx of freestylers in videos and shows, and sometimes I do just wonder if they do get the same treatment.
Historically, man, it's always been that way, man. Like, outside, in and out dance, people taking that same liberty, if I'm honest, it feels like.
I mean, definitely. Like, it's like Ollie was saying, you see a breakdown for something where the choreographer needs to, I think we have to remember, like, some dance is of a culture, and it's not maybe, well, most dances, isn't it, right? But, like, if you as a choreographer know you are not a flamenco dancer, and you could be from wherever in the world and you could be a professional flamenco dancer, that's cool. But like Ollie was saying, like, if you have no connection to it whatsoever and you're just going to watch some videos to copy, then you are appropriating. You are not honouring the scene, you are not honouring the culture. It's not going to be done properly. And a problem I think it is production or whoever, directors don't know. They just know this choreographer's been used so many times, so I will go to them.
And they don't really care, to be honest.
But it's for those choreographers to care, because it's so funny you mentioned flamenco. We had to do a job, me and Annie's were on it, one of the scenes I made a choice that I wanted to create something that was flamenco inspired, so we brought in someone who's a good friend of mine who is a flamenco choreographer to work with us on workshopping and creating something that was an amalgamation of what I wanted to create and true to flamenco, so we could create something that was new. And I think it's the creators and the people, like, they know when they're selling out, like fully selling out, you know what I mean? Like, they've got to, I think they just, like you said, they've got to have more respect and more understanding. They've got to, like, turn around and be like you said, like, when you share stuff, bring someone in who can maybe, you can help them, they've got the movement, they know the scene, and you can maybe help that align with the vision, but don't just be there trying to fake it.
I think that you doing that's someone with honor. That's someone who is confident in their skill and what they do, that they're not necessarily worried about the fact that they've brought in someone else, because it's not something that
I wanted to learn as well.
Exactly.
But like I said, that's
yeah, and you're not worried about, oh, but what if that choreographer takes my job? And you're not, because you're stamped in what you do. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the problem, where it's like, oh, but what if I bring her in as a choreographer and then she solicit work from my client? So I think that there's too much of that, all that niggly petty thinking.
Yeah.
And it's really
I think there's too many people who are too detached from the scene, if I'm honest, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like, and I don't mean a scene like the hip hop scene or the underground scene, just detached from dance as a scene. Like, if you're a creator within it, how are you gonna be so detached, man? Like, how are you gonna never be at anything that dancers are at? Class or nights or events, or how are you never gonna really be a part of it? Like,
there's a problem with media.
Internet gets people hiding now.
You know, media pushes out an aesthetic, but wants the culture, and that's a massive problem. And we all see it. Like, let's be real. Like, you know, I was joking with the other lot earlier about the Kardashians. Like, they're a big pain for me in the sense of appropriating culture always. And as I said, an aesthetic is always pushed in our faces in media of what is acceptable as beauty and all these things, but we want the culture to be with that, but yet we don't want to honour the people that have it. Like, we all see it. Like, I don't think anyone could deny that that's going on. Like,
so then, do you feel that when you receive casting breakdowns, sometimes that they push an agenda in regards to race and stereotyping like certain ethnicities?
Yeah, definitely. We've had several that we've had to turn down, or like we email back and say, look, have you got this right? Like, we've had briefs come through where the non-white characters are being paid less, and we've asked why are they doing less hours? We've had no answer, so we just leave it. We've had music video breakdowns that stereotype black people, Asian people, and for us, like, I'm mixed, so I have a responsibility as well, but also for the people that I represent. It's not worth the money to be on the wrong side of that, and it doesn't feel good. Like, the amount of times we've written to casting directors going, look, we just want to know, you know, why this character has this brief. Like, we just want to know, is it important that you put in there that they've been in jail for 10 years? Like, is it important to this music video that you're making that their background is this, that, and that?
Stereotypical.
Yeah, stereotyping,
yeah. And I've also had actually someone who's on the Dancers Network panel had to call us and say they felt uncomfortable in an audition because they felt like a casual racism in there. So we were like, cool, we will call this casting director straight away and talk to them about it, and we did, and we got the apology. For me, and I know a lot of people feel like this, but it just doesn't, it doesn't intimidate me. I know that, like, I know what I stand for, what we stand for, what we want for our dancers, how it should be, but we've also got to get to the underlying stuff like Olu's talking about. People don't talk about it enough, and people don't want to not acknowledge it because they're scared of losing work, they're scared of not working for this choreographer, they're scared of this and that. But there's a whole load of, like, you know, integrated racism going on that people cannot see. It's so minute, and some people go, I don't see it, I don't, you know, are you sure? Don't gaslight me, it's going on.
Yeah.
And just listen and go, okay, cool, what can we do? Do not tell people this is not happening to you, because it is.
Or brush it off.
Yeah.
So how do you feel like, as a dance community as a whole, that's something that we can combat? What do you feel like is the solution, or how you can approach it?
Oh man, you know what? Yeah, because, like, you know, there's some things that be amended that, like, have, you know, been happening for certain periods of time. This has been happening for a very, very, very long time, and is definitely more systematic than it is, you know. And it's outside. It's it's hard because it's been allowed to go on for a long time. Just in the creative industries in general, in industry and society and media in general.
We do, just to put it out there, we do something called wildcard casting that we have taken upon ourselves. We might get a brief through that they might say we want a guy with red hair, green eyes, white guy who can pop. Okay, cool. We have this guy for you, but we also have these 3 people who are not the aesthetic that you want, but they have the skill. Just in case, we're just putting it out there. And you know, maybe they don't want to see them, or maybe they do want to see them, but it's our responsibility just to put it out there.
Yeah.
You know, I get aesthetics, sometimes they do come into it if it's to do with history or to do with a culture, that has to stand. We have to help that stand. But if it's like, you know, an advert,
a drinks advert,
where it doesn't matter what you look like, have a look at these skilled people as well. You know, they don't look like what you want, but let's just try it, and then maybe they'll book, and sometimes they do.
It's just pushing the envelope a bit. It's breaking boundaries, and I think that's the only way we can move forward with it, is allowing those boundaries to be broken, and not necessarily, because all of these people that are creating this casting are just normal people that probably never experienced anything past what they've experienced in their lives, so they're probably just used to it. And that's what the problem is. They're so maybe closed-minded, and they haven't experienced much culture, so they don't know anything different. So they go, okay, this is what we look for because this is all I know. And everybody else around them has to push the envelope and go, well, let's try and just be a bit more open and involve and bring everyone together. I think that's what we do.
You got to have people breaking in from the other side. You know what I mean? Like, I like, by no means do I think that, like, you know, these companies behind these briefs are predominantly of one like race. They're not, like, you know, they're mixed as well, but just like doesn't mean that all those people are them from the culture. Just because they're Jamaican doesn't mean they know about dancehall. You know what I'm saying? But I do think that, like, they need to, you know, in cinema it's happening quite a lot, that people are bringing on people to learn more about how to be more appropriate and be more authentic, and
are we prepared though? Are people actually prepared to do that? Who are we holding? Who are we holding accountable when we see it, when it's happening? I want 5 Caucasian girls who can do dancehall. Okay, that's, to me, that doesn't take, like, for you to be educated or have a degree in, it's just it, like, who is prepared to, do you know what I mean, to be a whistle, to call it out, do you know what I mean, to say that's not right.
I mean, the hardest thing for some of these companies as well, like, or anyone who's trying to be creative, is that they're always trying to do, like, sometimes it's not even about them trying to be not appropriate, it's about them trying to be different. So if their assumption is that every time they've seen something it's this kind of way, how can I reinvent what this is? How can I find these different people who do it? Like if we're talking about the black cultures like that, like, you know, let's face it, like, how many of, like, some of the poppers and stuff that we know who are, like, kind of neaky looking white guys who get these roles because they just do this unexpected, they have these unexpected skills. You look at them and you don't think that they've got it, and then it's like, all of a sudden the guy's shutting the whole situation down. Like, there are viral videos that have gone out there. They've been like, one of the street dance movies had someone at the center of it who was kind of based on people like that. We know people like who to kill commercials and do it like that because they are from a different aesthetic. So it's giving you it's giving you what you don't expect. You know what I mean? And that's a hard thing.
I think what's just annoying for me anyway is that anyone who is non-white is political. There's a political thing attached to it, like, or there's a clause attached to it, or we're being diverse, or we, like, you know, it's like we wouldn't have the word diverse if we were just we showed what everyone looks like, you know, like it's being black, Asian, whatever, it's not a political thing. You are who you are. And why can't we just represent across the board in everything? Like,
and recently I just met the first black ballet dancer, female ballet dancer that was in the Royal Ballet. And I spent a weekend with her and I got to learn so much and understand, and literally it was fascinating. The fact that by law they had to have at least 1 or 2 black people, and they had the Arts Council would get a budget added to them added to the Royal Ballet, I think, because they had those two people. So they got more money by being inclusive in a way.
But then,
so then she found that out, and then she went up to them and she was like, well, if you get more money for me being here, well, I should get part of that money. And they tried to fight. Like, I learned so much about it. So something that's been happening for centuries. She's 50 now, and it's like that's it's something that has been going on for so long, but there's so much more that we probably don't even know about. That it's probably even still happening now. That they need to have the one black person or a black male and a black female, and just to make it diverse, to make it we've been inclusive.
It goes across the board. Like I said, it's systematic. It goes to everything. Like in sport, they've got this new thing called a Rooney Rule, which is not a new thing. It's been around for a while now, but it's now here. They have to interview a black candidate or a candidate of colour for every single role that comes up, like managerial role. But then it leads, it gets to this thing. It's like, if you're going to be asking me to do something, are you asking me just because you have to fill the quota?
Yeah.
Are you asking me because you want me or need me?
And I think that's
the brain fuck,
Are you
good enough? Am I good enough?
Or are you just ticking the box and go, I did it?
The word inclusive is so like, well, why are we included? Like, why are we just not
part of it?
Like, we're being inclusive, guys. Don't worry. Like, thanks.
Thanks so much for including me.
Yeah, I feel like this topic has so many layers. It's so deep, and there's so many things. But we do have to wrap it up there, guys. And honestly, thank you guys so much. I feel like personally, I've learned so much as well. Like, it's been amazing having you guys. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you.